Today on the Front Row Dads podcast, we welcome back Dr. Robert Glover. He is a relationship and intimacy expert and author of the bestseller, No More Mr. Nice Guy. He has dedicated his career to helping men overcome the self-defeating nice guy syndrome. He teaches guys to prioritize their needs, establish healthy boundaries, and embrace their authentic self. Dr. Glover empowers men to build fulfilling relationships, increase confidence, and navigate modern marriage dynamics with genuine masculinity and purpose. In Front Row Dads, we have small groups. We call those bands. They're typically 4 to 8 guys. They meet regularly. Some of those groups work great. They've been together for years. They take trips together. The conversations are rich. They laugh. It's like the ideal brotherhood of these 4 to 8 guys. And other guys will get together in the groups and they'll just fall apart. They just don't work. When guys can't find the brotherhood, when they don't seem to have, and I know there's some guys that just seem to naturally have it, and there's some guys that don't, that skill of building brotherhood. How would you coach a man to be better at building brotherhood in his life?
I went through that myself, really. Well, probably been focusing on that for over 20 years now. But it seems like it kind of comes in waves where I feel like a stronger need, like, oh, okay, I need to put more effort into it. That's a good question, because I'm always curious too about why things work, why they don't, why the exact same thing can work with one guy but not another guy. An example of that, when I started teaching guys how to date, when I got divorced in my late 40s and then into my 50s, I didn't know how to date. I hadn't done it since college. I sucked at it then. I used nice guy seduction. I'd try to impress the girl, do things for her, listen to her talk about her problems, try to be smart. And then, once I got a girlfriend, I'd stay with her forever. And so I had to learn to date. And I did. And I got good enough at it. I was going on a lot of dates and having sex and getting some girlfriends. And my clients said, Robert, teach us. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm not a dating coach. And they said, well, but you're having success. Teach us. And I'm a teacher. So I thought, okay. And I'm a relationship guy. So, that's what my training and experience is in. Even though I don't always do relationships that well, I know about them. So I had to think about, okay, what's working that is helping me connect with women, attracting them, go on dates with them. They're like wanting to get naked on first and second dates with no push from me. What's happening here? I didn't know what planet I'd landed on. And so my guys are saying, teach us. So I put together, okay, I sat down, what's working here? What am I doing? And a lot of it just had to do with being a social animal, getting out and connecting with people in general. With no attachment to outcome. Wasn't trying to make anything happen, wasn't picking up, wasn't just hitting on the hottest women. I was just walking through open doors of social opportunity. So I put this together and I did a weekend workshop. And then I taught it a few more times, put it in a class. It turned into a couple books. And these guys would come do these workshops with me, pay money, come spend, 2 or 3 days, whatever. And I check with them later. They check in with me and they say, Robert, this stuff's really working. I'm going on a lot of dates, or I met this really amazing woman. And this is great. It works. And then I would talk to other guys and say, how's it going? How's it working for you? Well, I haven't been on any dates. And I go, how come? Well, I just haven't been doing the stuff you teach. And so in my mind, I'm going, well, how come? You say you want to date, you want a girlfriend, you want to have sex, you pay money, you go to a workshop, and then you don't do it. And what really, probably a couple of things came down to it for me as I started looking at it. I think one is a fear of success, that this stuff works. And the problem is, what then? What's next that maybe I can't handle, or I lose control of my life, or this bad thing happens to me. Part of it's that, and then maybe part of it is men in general's discomfort with vulnerability, with taking risk. And so I think that's what you might see in these groups is some combination of a fear of success. They don't know what it's like to be in a band of brothers. They've never been there, never done it. They don't know what it might demand of them, what it might require of them, how it might take over their life or change their life. And that's scary.
Like if they were really, really good friends with somebody, that person would want more of them and they don't even know how to give more of them? Is that what you mean by fear of success?
Yeah, it could be so many things.
Gentlemen, Front Row Dads Live is coming up December 4th through the 6th in Austin, Texas. It's a one-of-a-kind event for men who want to win at home and in business. After last year's event, one of our attendees, Eric, said, Front Row Dads Live created the perfect space to go deep with other men, and it inspired massive changes in every area I needed it. Here I found community, purpose, and a better understanding of who I am meant to be as a father, husband, and leader. Go now to frontrowdads.com/live for more information.
When I talk about fear of success in my workshops, I'll usually give a couple examples. Let's say we got 8 or 10 guys in a workshop. And I'll go, okay, what are all the things that can go wrong if you talk to a pretty woman? And, we'll just go around the room. And you can come up with 20 plus things, all the way beginning. You might get rejected, might look foolish. You might have a boyfriend that beats you up. You might get a drink thrown in your face. All the way to she does like you. She does become your girlfriend. She becomes a psycho bitch from hell. She makes your life miserable. You can't get away. Or, you have 2 kids with her, and then she has an affair with an artist and, takes you for all your work. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong if you talk to a pretty woman. And if any of those things possibly could go wrong, it makes sense to not do the behavior that might lead to that thing happening, that success. And the same thing is true, I'll do the same thing with a group of guys and say, what's everything that might go wrong if you try to put your penis in a vagina? Oh, you might not get your erection, you might lose it, you might come too quickly, you might get an STD, you might get her pregnant, you might get accused of rape, you might get written up on social media, you might. And if there's a chance of any of those things happening, it would make sense to not do the things that would lead to success. Same thing's true, in business, whether it's, going for a promotion or job you want, launching your own company. Everything that is outside of our comfort zone, that's not already familiar to us, is filled with unknowns. And most of us will fill in the gaps of what are those unknowns based on our life experience, so our world paradigm, our occurring world of us and the world. And it usually, for most people, boils down to, I'll be found out, people will see, I'm boring, uninteresting, I waste a lot of time looking at porn, jerking off, so I'll be found out. There's inadequacies get tied in there. Well, they'll find out I'm not good enough, I'm not that smart, I really don't have that much money, I'm kind of faking it, I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. I'll lose control of my life. I'll lose my freedom. I won't be able to goof off, do what I want. I'll be obligated now. There'll be a brighter spotlight on me somewhere. All my successes, now I've got to keep achieving greater successes because of the spotlight. So, there's a handful of things that I found most men have in their bag of what might happen if I succeed. And that's just fear of success. There's also, the fear of failures. I might look foolish, might look stupid, I might lose all my money, whatever the negatives are as well. So I think you can break down any context where you have any situation where some people follow certain patterns or behaviors, take advantage of certain opportunities, and they have success. And then you look at other people, given the same information, same opportunities, and nothing happens for them. It's usually probably either a conscious or an unconscious choice to not do the things that work. And, we talk quite a bit now about kind of the epidemic of loneliness and isolation for men. And it's true. I mean, there's all kinds of statistics showing men, marry at a much later age, spend much less part of their lives in relationship, having a lot less sex, which is kind of amazing because theoretically sex should be easier to have now than it used to be. And I think this kind of pandemic of loneliness, I believe a lot of it's self-inflicted. It's just men feeling overwhelmed, not knowing how to connect, not knowing how to get out of their comfort zone, never having any kind of masculine initiation to go do things that make them uncomfortable, that they're afraid of. And so I think it's just men nowadays, we're drawn to the comfort. Just let me just stay, I call it the nursery. Let me just stay in the nursery. I can just consume information. Oh man, we love consuming information. Listen to you guys at breakfast yesterday morning. They go, oh man, you guys go to a lot of self-help workshops. And sometimes I have to give my clients, I said, stop reading self-help books, watching podcasts, listening to the ebooks.
Except for this one.
No, finish my course. Yeah, you're taking a course with me. Finish
do his
my
event,
course. Yeah.
listen to the show.
Yeah.
Everything
But
else you can let it go.
I tell them, you probably already have enough information to significantly change your life.
Sure.
But gathering information is fun. And we live in a world. I mean, I look at millennials. My son's 39, so he's a millennial. He grew up with the internet, with broadband internet, with Discovery Channel, Animal Planet. And my son can talk intelligently about many things. He has a master's in wildlife ecology, but he's well informed. And now we look at Generation Z. Their mom and dads were putting a smartphone in their hands when they're 3 days old to entertain them with Nickelodeon or whatever. And so they've just grown up with a phone in their face, consuming information, for good or for bad. I mean, there's good information out there and a lot of crappy information. But they're consumers of information. And they may have big plans to launch their entrepreneurial project and build their click funnel and do all of that because they have all the information to do it. But they never get around to it. Oh, there's one more podcast I can watch. Or, I could go, study more about ayahuasca. Or I could go, and so they hang out in the nursery, just getting information pushed to them, whether it's surfing the internet, on social media, jerking off to porn, watching Netflix. All of those things, they're fine. They're not inherently bad or evil. But once we get comfortable with just having information pushed to us and no real challenge required of us, because it's a lot easier to gather information than it is to actually go act on it. So I think that's what you will see with a lot of men nowadays, is that it seemed like a good idea, but it required something of them, a challenge of them. And again, most modern men have not had any kind of masculine initiation where they were taught that to welcome the challenge, to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, to face their fears. And I think we need that to be happy as men, to really live up to our potential. So going back to your question of your men's groups, it could be a number of things. It just could be the chemistry of the group. Every time you go to one of these new workshops, right, you go and you probably watch yourself kind of analyzing and evaluating all the other guys. I'll do workshops in my home. I did one just weekend before last. I'll do another one in about 3 weeks. Usually about 8 guys. I had 10 last time. And I tell them Friday night, I said, you're going to be looking around thinking, all right, who are these guys? I don't know about that guy. He reminds me of someone I know. I'll probably got to like him. I wish that guy hadn't come. He's probably going to dominate. That guy's weird. We all do that. We do. We size everybody up. We measure everybody. We create the hierarchies. And I tell the guys, that's normal. And I said, right now you don't know each other. You might even think a few people in here are kind of strange. I said, but by Sunday afternoon, after you spend time being vulnerable, going deep, spending some time socializing outside of this space, sharing who you are, by Sunday, you guys are going to feel like you are frat brothers. You've known each other 20 years. And so I've been following on the Signal chat thread. These guys were in the workshop a week ago. And they've already organized. They're all getting together to talk on Zoom this weekend. They've been texting each other, talking about their travels. I didn't have to tell them to do any of that. They're just doing it. And I've watched that happen. I've led groups where afterwards, for years, 5, 6 years, the men travel every year to go be together, do some event, connect. So some groups do that, some don't. And so I think part of it is the container you create to where the men feel safe to be vulnerable, to open up, to reveal, to be their true selves. How many places in life do we just get to be our true self?
Yeah.
I mean, we're measured in so many places. We're guarded. And to be yourself is what bonds us and connects us with other people. It's what I tell guys around dating. Be yourself. Well, I'm being my real self, but that's not working so well. I don't have a girlfriend. And I go, how many people have you really let see the real you? Do you even see the real you? Do you see how much time you waste, how insecure you are, all the opportunities you squander? And that's not judgment, but do you blurt what's on your mind? Do you act on an impulse? Do you have a spontaneity that it's just you? And most men don't. But once they get that experience of having that with somebody else, that they feel safe in this reciprocal, we want more of that. Now, again, a lot of us are busy. We've got our partners. You would not believe how many men basically have to get a hall pass or permission from their wife just to leave the house and go have a breakfast with other guys. When I joined my first men's group 20 plus years ago, met every Saturday morning. And the guys all went and had breakfast together after the group. And I had to drive about 45 minutes to get to it. And, you know, at least for a year and a half, never went to breakfast. I had to get, it was Saturday, I had to get home to my wife. I didn't know what her expectations were, what kind of mood she was going to be in. I had to get home. It took me about a year and a half of going to that men's group to go, I'm going to breakfast with you guys. And I go, this is cool. And then, you know, once I realized how much fun it is, let's go camping together. And once I got a taste of it, you know, that runs my life now. I've got, you know, been in a men's program myself for years. I'm the guy that, you know, holds everybody together, gets in touch. Here in Austin this week, I got several buddies here I'm already in connection with. One of them already arranged a peyote ceremony that other friends of mine are going to be at. So everywhere I go in the world, I've got friends now. But most of the friends will say, Robert, you're the one that kind of, you know, makes things happen. You're the one that stays in contact. Because we men, we just get busy.
Yeah.
We let things slide.
Do you feel that's a part of it, what you just said, is that there's got to be at least one guy that's the spark?
Probably.
He's got to be driving it. He has to bring the fuel.
Or at least two guys that
want, yeah, and then everybody else gets around that.
Yeah.
They need a nucleus, right?
Somebody has to, like, well, I mentioned these groups, the workshops that I lead, and I create a signal chat thread for them. And usually about after 2 or 3 weeks, I drop out of it. And, you know, but what I do is I go, what guy, because I have to leave somebody as the administrator of it. So I just look, which guy's the guy's that's been blowing it up? Yep. The one saying, let's do this, let's talk. I make him the administrator. So if no one guy like that stands out, there's usually probably not much going to happen either. So there does almost need to be somebody that just says, let's do this, let's do that, or somebody that's leading with their vulnerability, or even saying, hey, I got home, you know, my wife said she, you know, wants to leave me, you know, that my whole world's falling apart. But even that can be the glue that brings the guys together, because there's this vulnerability and they want to be there for each other. So it's not like you have to have a cheerleader that's, you know, always setting up fun stuff to do, but there has to be something that the guys just get some sense of value, that they want to stay apart and stay connected. Now, some guys, you're never going to break them out of the shell. Even if they sign up, pay money. The men's program I was in, you know, for the last 6 years, there are guys that pay $10,000 for that and never show up.
Right.
Never come to a retreat, never get on a call. In your program, I'm sure you see it.
Yep.
People pay good money, seemed like a good idea, and never show up. Seems crazy to me, but, you know, it happens. So I don't know if this answers your question, but there's probably a lot of moving parts to it. And probably, since you and I both, you know, lead men's programs and are trying to provide the best things for men. How do we connect them? How do we help them get their needs met? How do we help them level up to the best version of themselves? Now, I think you and I are both convinced we need other men to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you got your front row dads. I'm Integration Nation. It's all about good men. It's about men connecting with men. That's how we level up. That's how we have our best relationships. That's how we perform highly in life. That's how we be in our best shape. And you and I both believe it. But again, until a man has tasted what it's really like to have that depth of connection with men and depth of vulnerability and having a man have your back when you thought nobody was there for you, they got to taste it, because most men nowadays did not have close, bonded, safe relationships with their dads. A lot have never known a man. They think men and trustworthy are oxymorons. Many young men have been bullied, often by bullies, other boys, maybe by girls, but probably often by my most significant bullying in life came from my father. In terms of how he treated me at times. So if that's what our view of what happens with men, yeah, it makes sense that we'd either seek out the approval of women or just stay in the basement on the video screen, you know, posting on blogs or, you know, playing World of Warcraft till 2 a.m, whatever it might be. It's safer. You made me think in the men's program I've been in, and you know my coach, there's there's a lot of different practices that he does, because I've done it for several years. I've done the practices many times. But there's one that he calls Sacred Dick. And basically, it's a practice where we have to look another man in the eye and give him our deepest truth about him, where we don't trust him, where he's not showing up fully, where it's not like, hey, I think maybe you ought to pay attention to this. It's got to be just like about one sentence, and it's got to make you uncomfortable to deliver it, because most of us are nice guys. But really, where else can we get sacred dick other than another man who loves us and cares for us and says, Robert, you're underperforming. Robert, you're mailing it in. Robert, you seem distracted. Robert, I want you to bring it all. That's the beauty of men. Whether that iron that sharpens iron. I was on a call in this men's program a few years ago when David Data came on and had a conversation with us, and we were talking about men's groups. And somebody asked him a question, and he said something that I'd never heard, and I've been leading men's groups for years. He said men tend to go to a men's group for one of three reasons: either this particular moment in time or the bigger picture of why am I in a men's group. And he says they tend to either come to be held accountable, say, hey, I need someone to hold my feet to the fire. I make these commitments, I don't follow through, I need to have somebody. I have a number of accountability groups in my life, whether it's around just personal fitness, whether it's around my relationships, just because I need men to know where I'm at any given time. They come to be held accountable. He said they come to be supported. They're going through a difficult time. They're in pain. They just need to be held. They need to be loved on. And they come just to be with men. And I go, I'm all three of those. I'm not so much the accountability like I might have been in my 20s or 30s or 40s. I'm kind of now the one that's giving the accountability a lot, but I still need it. But yeah, a lot of times I just go to just be with men, just because it fills my bucket. I feel so well nourished, so well loved. I say a lot. I just love hanging out with men, as you've heard me say.
Thanks for listening, fellas. If you want to hear more of Robert, he will be with us at Front Row Dads Live in Austin, Texas, December 4th through the 6th. Go to frontrowdads.com/live for more details. That's frontrowdads.com/live for details. And since you're listening now, you probably enjoyed this episode, so please think of one guy who is committed to growing as a man, a family man, and a businessman, and share this episode with him. Have a great day, fellas.